Hello students, I hope you remember that the last time when we had a class, we had done The Road Not Taken. This is the first poem in your book Beehive. That is your main literature reader. And I had um, given you a line-wise explanation of the poem, and I had told you that the next time when we meet, we'll be doing the literary devices and the other important questions of the poem. So let's begin. Today I'm going to focus on the summary, the literary devices. See, children, when I talk about literary devices, I'm talking about the various devices that are used in a poem by the poet to make it, you know, beautiful in meter, in rhyming, and also, there are a lot of hidden meanings. Okay, so when you can understand the imagery, the metaphor, the simile, and all, then you understand the richness of the poem. Okay, so this is what we mean by literary devices. So the summary is that the poet Robert Frost says that once he was walking down the road and he reached a fork. He could take one of the paths only. He took time, he stood there and contemplated. He thought what would be the best choice for him. So he took time to choose the right path. He inspected them to decide which was the better option and then chose the one which seemed less walked upon. He kept the other one for some other day, although he knew that he would never get the chance to walk upon it. He would go further on the chosen path. You know how he says that, one way leads to another. And so he says he will not get a chance to go back on it. So even when he is promising to himself that he is going to come back to this path some other time, the way we console that, okay, fine, doesn't matter. I'll look at this option later on. But you know that it's just a false, a hollow promise. You will never do that again. So, as he walked on the chosen path, he realized that both the paths were similar. He felt that his future depended on the choice that he made. And what future was it? Even he doesn't know, because he says that once, I have achieved whatever I can in life, then I will sigh. With a sigh, I'll tell people the story how I had stumbled upon this fork in the road, and what was my criteria for choosing the path that I chose, and where it has placed me in life. So right now, while making this choice, he doesn't know where it's going to land him. So he says the word, sigh. Now, sigh is of two types. It could be a sigh of sorrow, it could be a sigh of relief. So he says that, that sigh word, he's like playing upon that word, and you know he doesn't know what will happen. So if all is well and his choice proves to be a good choice, that sigh would can be interpreted as a sigh of relief. If somehow things did not turn out the way he would have liked them to, then that sigh turns would be a sigh of sorrow. So this is the summary of the poem, students. Now we come to the literary devices. Okay. The analysis of literary devices explains the hidden meanings of a literary text or a poem. The use of literary devices is intended to bring richness and clarity to the text with different meanings. See, everything cannot be written down in the poem or in the story. There are some things which remain subtle, they are hidden, they're not clearly seen there for everyone. But if you can analyze the literary devices, you can uncover those truths which the poet has hidden there, like small hints for the reader, so that the reader finally completely understands what the poet is trying to convey. So, The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost is also filled with important undertones with the following literary devices. So what are these? The first one is metaphor. See, metaphor is a comparison without using the words like or as. He is a lion is a metaphor. This means that he is as brave or courageous as a lion. Simile, I'm just revising this with you, okay? Simile, he is brave like a lion, or he is like a lion. That shows that that is a direct comparison. So this is the only difference between metaphor and simile. Both of them are actually comparisons. Now there are many metaphors in the poem like road, fork in the road, and yellow woods. The road in the poem is the metaphor of life. Why? Because that road that he's walking on, okay, it's not new. There are so many writers, poets, where who have compared life to a journey or a road or a path. So the road metaphorically represents the choices. The road is the metaphor of life, while the fork in the road, that fork represents the various choices we make to determine the course of our lives or our destiny. What path will we choose that will shape the future? Similarly, the yellow woods, they are a metaphor for making decisions during the hard times of a person's life. See, the leaves are yellow, the leaves are no more green, and the leaves have fallen. So it's not the best part of somebody's life. It is a challenging part of one's life. So these metaphors, the yellow woods, the road, and the fork in the road, they emphasize the importance of different decisions we make in different situations and their result or the consequence in our lives. And they also tell us that we do not have to take any decision in haste. We should contemplate, think about the pros and cons, but at the same time, you have also seen that the road bent into the undergrowth and then it disappeared from sight. That means there is a limitation to how far-sighted we can be. We cannot know everything that is there in the future. So we can just use our intelligence, our limited human intelligence to a certain extent, and after that we have to leave everything in the hands of destiny or God. Imagery is the next literary device. And imagery means when the reader feels things that the poet is feeling through words, but then they form different kinds of images. Okay, now these images that he's talking about here are, it could be olfactory, where he can describe a fragrance. uh, it can be um, an imagery, like tactile imagery, where he describes how a thing feels. Okay, the touch. It can be an imagery where it is an optical imagery, where he describes what the thing looks like. It could also be an auditory imagery. Okay, I'm just telling you all this so that you know that imagery is not just related to what a thing looks like. Okay, so this is just for that. You need not remember all of these terms. I'm just telling you that imagery can mean a description that appeals to our senses, our five senses. Okay, now imagery is used to make the readers feel things through their five senses. The poet has used images of the sense of sight, okay, the optical imagery, such as leaves, yellow woods, and the undergrowth. Okay, there's something missing there, and the undergrowth. And then these images help the readers to perceive things that they are reading. Perceive is, to visualize, to imagine, how the poet is painting a picture in words for the reader. The image of the road helps readers to visualize things. Okay, and to visualize, here he's helping them visualize a road, providing a navigation route to the traveler and to the reader. Now simile, as we have already discussed the metaphor here, simile is a device used to compare things with familiar things to let the readers know it easily. There is one simile used in the second stanza, such as mm, just as fair. Okay, just as fair means, it is describing the road, the other road which was just as fair. That means, how one one road was as good enough. Fair here means good enough, good as the other one. It shows how the poet has linked the road less taken to the easy way through life. You know, the road was less taken, but then he says that it was good enough. Doesn't matter. It was less walked upon road, but that doesn't mean that the road was difficult to travel by. No, it was just as easy as the other one. Next, we come to personification. Now, personification means when a thing is treated, an inanimate thing. Inanimate thing could be a feeling or an object which doesn't have life, and it is compared to a, a thing which has life. Okay, like here, he has personified the road in the third line of the second stanza. Here it is stated, because it was grassy and wanted wear, as if the road is human and that it wants to wear and tear. It wants to be used. It wants to be of some utility. Okay, so in the end we come to the rhyme scheme. Rhyme scheme is another very important literary device. It gives the poet the rhythm, and the whole poem forms the ABAAB rhyme scheme. And you have to see the last sound in which the poem is ending, like and, hand. This is a rhyming. These are rhyming words. Might, fight. These are rhyming words. Bird, curd. These are also rhyming words. So this is how we find out the rhyming. Like the rhyme of these A words, they are similar. The rhyme of the B words are similar. Children, when you are going through this again, all these literary devices, I would like you to keep your text in front of you and then go through. See, when I have given you, I have told you like where will you find this personification. So I want you to mark it in pencil, underline and write, personification over there. So I want you to write the notes there. And if you do not have the printouts, many of you will not be able to get printouts, so you can just note down in your notebook that these are the literary devices. Now we come to the questions, and the questions are: where does the traveler find himself and what problem does he face? So I think this is an easy one. The traveler finds himself at the fork of a road, and he faces the problem. It's very easy, he is confused. He's in a dilemma. Which road should he take out of these two? Discuss what these phrases mean to you. Yellow wood, yellow wood. I'm just giving you hints, okay? And you have to, play the explanation again to understand the explanation of the description of the summary, as well as the poem that I had done with you the other day. So a yellow wood is a wood which is the forest which is not in a blooming stage, like in spring. It is in a challenging point of time of life. It's yellowing, so it is not youthful and brimming with life. It is, there's, you can see there is an underlying effect of struggle over here. It was grassy and wanted wear. That means it was grassy. And when you walk upon a road, the grass doesn't grow there. Okay. So the grass was the road was grassy and wanted wear. That means, there was clearly a requirement there. And what was the requirement? The need, that somebody should walk over it so that it's not so grassy. The passing there, that means, when you are, the going through life, going ahead in your journey of life. Leaves no step had trodden black. That means that road, he notices that the leaves are still green. They have fallen from the trees, but they haven't turned black. They would only turn black when people walk on it repeatedly, and then they will get rotten, and then they will turn black. How way leads on to way. How way leads on to way means how, there is a common phrase for it. Um, uh, how one thing leads to another. What it means is, when we take a road, there is always, something else that happens. There is no ending to things as such in life. As long as we are alive, we are breathing, something or the other happens. Like wherever we stop today, tomorrow we take on from that same point. So the end point of today's work becomes the beginning point of tomorrow's work. So this way, one way leads to another. Life is a journey, when the kind of journey where you cannot come back to the past. You can only think about it. You can retrospect, think about the past. You can be nostalgic, but you can never go back to your past. This is what it means by how way leads on to way. How one way leads on to another way, and you go on moving ahead. Now, next question is there any difference between the two roads as the poet describes them in stanzas 2 and 3? What is the difference? Last two lines, what's the difference? See, in stanzas 2 and 3, first he says that, one road was less traveled upon, and then, when he goes on to to the road of his choice, he finds that, it wasn't so different. They are like more or less the same. And in the end, he clearly says that I chose the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So what he means here is, he has chosen to do something which is unique, not everyone was doing it, and that is what has shaped his future. So in these two stanzas, there is retraction by the poet. Retraction means, coming back to what he said first. In the beginning, he had noticed that there was some difference, and then in the end, he ends with that difference. Now, what do you think the last two lines of the poem mean? And looking back, does the poet regret his choice or accept it? See, this is relative. Relative means it depends on what he finally achieves. So he has left it as an open, option for us, whatever we want to make out of it. And I think that the way Robert Frost has, marked a niche for himself in English literature, American literature, I think it must have been a sigh of relief. Okay, so I think the poet did not regret his choice. He must have accepted the consequences of his choice, and he must have enjoyed the fruit of his right decision. Now, question number 2, main part. Okay, there are two parts. This is the first part, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. This is the second part. Now, this first part, these questions are based, they are directly from the text. Now, the second part, these questions you have to answer on the basis of your own understanding of the poem, as well as it's it involves free response. You see the kind of questions they are. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice? Or do you think you will have difficult choices to make? So, if you have never had to make a difficult choice, then you have to think about future. You may have to face difficult choices in future. How will you make the choice? Like what reasons will you take for yourselves? So it could be anything related to your family life, your career, anything, a choice of an occupation. So you can base your answer on that. Second one is, after you have made a choice, do you always think about what might have been, or do you accept the reality? So there are, like, it, what I feel is, I'm just giving you hints to attempt these two questions. So when you make a choice and all goes well, that is the time you accept the reality, I think. And if something goes wrong, then you think, oh, I should not have done this, I should have done that, I should have taken the other option. And then you see, if I had done that, this is the situation I could have been in today, a much better situation. I don't know, I'm just giving you a hint as to what, in what way you can answer these two questions. So with this we end the dis- the discussion of the poem once again. And as I've said, this is a worksheet as well, but I did not want to give you just the questions, so I have included the summary, I have included the literary devices over here, so that you read these explanations, that helps you solve these answers. Now I have given you some the answers also, but what I would like for you is to do the attempt these answers first, the questions yourself, and then you can go ahead and read the answers and see how well you could put all of this into words. So with this we come to the end of the class, today's class. Thank you, students, and I hope you enjoy doing the worksheet.